Hello, so today I'm going to talk to you about Briefcases, which is the second collection of short stories in the Dresden world. The first collection I didn't love, I had pretty mixed feelings about. There were certain stories that were real standouts to me. The last story in the collection, of course, was one. Warriors, which is the one with Michael, was definitely a standout. I don't remember all of them, but there were a few that were easy 5 stars, and then there were several that were really lowly rated for me, and that ended up leaving me feeling a little bit lukewarm about it. Quite a few short stories that would begin with the little author note saying, I had a deadline to meet, so I threw this together. You know, just like not, I just felt like, why am I here? You know, like understandable for the hyper fans, but like, why am I here? This second collection of short stories, I did not feel that way about. I felt like almost every story was well worth reading, and that I actually had thoughts on. I was engaged with each one. There were far more that I really enjoyed. So I'm going to skip over the ones that I don't really have strong feelings on, and I'm going to specifically emphasize my favorite ones and why they were my favorites, and then I'll talk about general complaints at the end. But overall, I enjoyed this short story collection far more than the first, obviously, because you're actually getting a review for this one, whereas the last one just got mentioned in a wrap-up. Starting with Bigfoot, I did not expect to have any kind of feelings about a Bigfoot story, especially when the author note at the beginning was, how silly of me, I've created this world where I'm trying to handle all of these different myths and legends, and I haven't messed with Bigfoot yet, so here we go, Bigfoot, and I'm just like, oh no, here we go again. But it was so good. I think the first of the 3 was actually my favorite, because we got to focus in on Harry's kindness and how much it matters to him to bring justice and to protect kids, you know, just those core character traits that make Harry were all on display in this story. Erwin is such a sweetheart, and what an easy way to make your readers hate the antagonist, to create a schoolyard bully situation and then make the antagonist an adult that's egging it on. I didn't have strong feelings about the second Bigfoot story. I honestly don't really remember very many details about it at all, but the third Bigfoot story where we had the new vampire being introduced and, you know, the vampire, she didn't know that she was a vampire, and Erwin was, you know, completely enraptured by her, and Erwin was going to be, he was going to die at her hand, that she would come to age by his death. It was an interesting story, and the fact that Erwin actually got to meet his dad at the end. I remember, I think one of the lines was something along the lines of Erwin asking Harry, just tell my dad that I want to meet him. Just tell him that I would like to see him once. And that was then worked into the deal with Harry, and we got that meeting at the end. And what a satisfying way to conclude visiting Erwin and checking in on him. I enjoyed Triple A Wizardry and Even Hand, but it was Molly's stories, Bombshells and Cold Case, that were the standouts of were the other standouts of the short story collection. I so appreciated getting a look into Molly's head, seeing her perspective on things, seeing how she recovered, or how she learned about Harry still being alive, how she navigates life in this new position that she's in, how she interacts with Mab, the stances that she's taking in this new position, and her fighting against the natural inclinations that come with this new mantle that she's taken on, as well as fighting against what's normal within the Winter Court. All of these things I just thought were such a great perspective for me to have. I already love Molly, obviously, but getting the opportunity to see things from her perspective just made me love her even more and appreciate her character even more, as well as seeing how the Winter Court is managing her, like her seeking out this relationship with Ramirez, I think it was. And oh my goodness, the scene where she wakes up in the shower and she's covered in blood, and then she walks out and sees the seed in front of her, and then Mab is just sitting in the corner watching, and she's like, you can't do it. And this is how I've decided to tell you, not with words, but through experience. You have to keep the order of things. You can't seek out these other relationships. You can't break the order. And it's like, you could have told me any other way, but instead she allowed this to happen. And then on top of that, the fact that she was charged to collect these children as soldiers for the war against the outsiders, and she wants to fight back and she's gonna find another way. So we also get an insight into the conflicts that she's facing, as well as the ambition she has to figure out another way, or how she's going to be pushing back against the situation that she's put in. I just really, really enjoyed her stories. I thought that they shone a light, they broadened the world more, and they shone a light on the unique struggles that Molly is facing, even though we can't really follow her as closely as we want to. This was a look into it, so that I'm sure later on when we come back to seeing where she is, this will help us to know or to be able to, I just expect to come back to her after she's accomplished something, and we can see this as, yeah, we knew she was on her way to figuring something out. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm not. Finally, my last standout story in this collection was Zoo Day, of course. It was, oh my goodness, it was so nice to get to see Harry and Maggie have a day together to try to bond. And of course they're disrupted, of course things don't go well, but we also got Maggie's perspective. We got to see the way that she views Harry and how she views wanting this relationship with him, and her trepidation, but also her trust, as well as her bond with Mouse, which was so sweet. We got a little bit of perspective from Mouse too. This felt like such a layered short story where with each new POV we're seeing a little bit more, and I just thought that it was so fantastically written. It was very tender and sweet. I love seeing Molly actually being able to combat her little, what were they? Shades? That would be a lot more intense. Creeps and haunts, and you know, her issue that she has to face with these kids that are being haunted or that are being possessed, how capable she is and how much she's learned over this short period of time. It was just great to get a window into her mind as well. And it had the emotional gut punches that I expect from scenes with Harry and Maggie together. So I was so satisfied with that one. Overall, my complaints, well, one is Butters' short story. I really expected to love that short story because I love Butters, but honestly, he felt like a parody of himself. It seemed like Butcher just tried to cram as many of his catchphrases and like little character traits into a tiny bit of space for fan service. Like, it just, I don't understand. We could have done so much with seeing more of Butters as a Knight of the Cross and his complex feelings about it all. But instead it was just like, you know, Butters on a mission, being catchphrase Butters. I don't know, maybe I'm being a brat because I did listen to this directly after I hit a deer. So maybe I was just in a really bad mood, but I just wanted so much out of this short story and I feel like I got so little. Overall, short story collections typically aren't my thing. It's not what I gravitate towards. I did like this one far more than the first one. I thought that this one was well worth the read. One of my patrons who read this at the same time as me had a really, he put into words something that I think is very true. So I'm just going to read his words because they're his. I do wish though that Butcher would take the opportunity afforded by short stories and be more creative, not just mini versions of the same stories, but really open up the world for people themselves more than he does. He does it a little, and when he does, it's great, but I wish for less formula to the stories and more creativity. And I strongly agree with this. These short story collections have so much opportunity, and I do think that opportunity is taken, but Butcher has his formulas, and it would be great if we could step outside of that formula even more than these short stories do and really expand the world, expand the characters more than we do up to this point. I still enjoyed them. I don't want to make it sound like I'm being hypercritical. I still really enjoyed this short story collection and I'm really glad that I read it, but I do definitely strongly prefer the novel format over the short story format from Butcher. And it's not not always the case for me. One of the authors that I've been loving so much this year is Stefan Zweig, and I've only read short stories from him, and I adore his short stories. So it's not like I can't enjoy a short story. Obviously, I enjoyed some of the short stories within this collection very, very much. I just, I think that Butcher's strong suit is more in the full-length novel format. Anyway, I know it was a quick review. I'm actually gonna miss Dresden in December, and I'm gonna wait until January to pick up on Dresden again. So we'll have a little break, but don't worry, very soon we will be back. Please do let me know what you thought of this short story collection. Are there any short stories that stand out really strongly to you? Do you have similar standouts to me, or one of them that I didn't feel strongly about? Do you have really strong feelings about? I would love to chat with you more about it. I'll see you again soon. Bye.